Do you want to be the host of this one, or should I continue? I'm happy if you want to be the host, though.
I've never been the host before. Yeah, all right. I guess I can give it a go. There's no right or wrong way to do this, right?
No, I mean, look. If I can do it, anyone can do it. That's how I'm looking at it.
You're so good at it. That's the thing. It just comes naturally to me.
Yeah, but I don't want this to be. I don't want this to be just only a me as the host. It's not just me. It's all of us. I think.
All right, sure.
Give it a go. Let's see how we go.
I feel like I need to warm up now. It's not natural anymore.
You'll be fine. You'll be right. I mean, look, you think I know what I'm doing? My motifs change from week to week, so you'll be right.
Oh, I need a motif. I need to think of something.
Don't worry, mate. You don't need to. Go for it. Hit us with that intro.
Welcome to Board Game Gateway, episode 5. Board Game Gateway, where you're constantly asking yourself, is it my turn? Yes, it is. Welcome to the episode.
That's better than any motif I could have come up with.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, there's always that constant panic when you're like, it's my turn. Oh, shit. But yeah, I am your host this evening. My name is Ralph, and joining me tonight is Neeber.
Hello.
Hello. Yes,
Hello.
Yes, I didn't call you Anthony this time. So.
I noticed. I noticed. And it felt natural, Ralph. It felt right. It felt good.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
It felt good.
And the main topic for this episode is meetup etiquette. So what do you do when you're invited to a evening of board games, or even just going to somewhere like a local board game store? What to expect, and basically how you should behave and how you expect people to behave, and just so you don't panic and everyone's sort of going in for that good time of board gaming. So, Anth, what do you expect when someone invites you around for a board game?
Well, I expect not a lot actually from my people who come up to the meetups. The main thing that I kind of am looking forward to when people come to the come to like a gaming meetup at my house is primarily have an open mind and expect to have some fun. I mean, look, I understand that this hobby is still relatively niche for a lot of people. So I expect that when people are coming to come and have a fun time, there's a lot of pressure, but I also expect that they come with an open mind, and that because I'm going to put some time into making sure you have a good time. So I would think I would like you, if you were to come to my house, to kind of just be ready to play what it is that I put in front of you. I think what about you?
Definitely. I love to basically have everyone settled in. We have 20 minutes of chat or so, and then I show them my collection, and then I get oh no, there's so much choice. And I'll generally like to show off a little bit and sort of gauge what they're up for, and we just sort of all dive in, and everyone's excited. Once they find the theme of a game they really enjoy, we generally dive right in.
Yeah, awesome.
But
awesome.
Personally, I love coordinating events, and I know you do as well, Nee.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the reason. I mean, trying to get people into coming to your house and coming and to play some games. You have to have a bit of that bone, to want to be able to organize and do that kind of stuff. I think we should probably mention to people that we are both administrators of a Facebook group. Who are called the MacArthur Board Gamers, who, we're essentially a group of gamers in our local area. And we're just about to hit 250 members, which is pretty dang good. But I'm relatively new to it. I've been here for less than 3 months, and I happened to meet you guys through this Facebook group. And the guys I should mention, yourself, Ralph, Damien, and Reese, who are the other three, and you three are basically the creators of the group.
The founding fathers, as it were.
Yeah, you guys, and I'm the ring-in who I'm just really super enthusiastic, and I happen, we talked about how we met on episode number 1 of the podcast, how we met through that, and then I happened to invite you to one of my events, and then I was like, hey, I'd really like to be a part of this. And I think the reason as well that we wanted to do this episode, or the theme of this episode, is because we just attended or had our August meetup on Friday. So we're recording this on a Monday, but we both attended that meetup on Friday.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. We had, I think, 10 people turn up this time around to
Yep.
our events, but our first event that we held last year, just sort of before the big lockdown, we got like a good 30 people there, and
Wow.
they weren't necessarily gamers. I brought out a game called Anomia, which is just literally yelling silly things out, the first thing that comes to your mind, and massive hit. And since then, we've had reoccurring people, we've had the group grow, people tell their friends locally. And then when we do events every 3 weeks or every month, we get people there. But the main reason we started MacArthur Board Gamers was literally I couldn't lure people to my house with candy. So I decided I met Reese, one of my friends locally, and he sort of kickstarted this movement. And Damien was really keen for it as well. So I suppose the main point of it is we just wanted to find like-minded gamers to play games with, and they're not all necessarily into the bigger games. As some people just want to have a lighter game or a medium weight game on a Friday evening or even a
Mm.
Saturday, and the group really is just to meet people, like-minded people locally.
Yeah, I
So
mean, look, and it's only growing at the moment, and I think a lot of the group itself is primarily a meeting group, as you said, to meet like-minded people.
yeah,
And not only do we have these meetups going on, but you and a lot of other people are organizing other events. We're like, hey, I'm playing, Star Wars Outer Rim, and we're going to this place on Friday night. If you want to meet us up and
yeah,
and come play. And so yeah, it's really interesting to see that.
yeah, and Ben, who owns and runs the game center, sorry, at Narellan, has been great in helping us run these events and giving us that space to run these events.
Yeah.
But it's also important to highlight that we're not locked down to a venue. So MacArthur Board Gamers is really anywhere you want it to be. So we've had gamers invite people into their own homes, and we had people, going to like Liverpool Catholic Club to play a game on a Saturday, just little things like that. So it really is, and we're actually kicking off another event of a social game called Blood on the Clock Tower at Ingleburn Bowling Club as
Yeah,
well,
and
just to
that's
give
gonna
us
be
that bit
that's
more
really
space.
exciting. Yeah, that's really exciting. And look, and well, the game center is our meetup place for
Yeah.
our monthly meetup. We're also trying to expand that as well, which is pretty cool. But look, I'd like to, if I may, I'd like to, before we talk about the group anymore, I'd love to talk about a couple of the games that we played at the meetup if we can, because one of them was new to me. One was one that I owned, but you also played. You played a new one as well, didn't you?
I did. I played the Castles of Mad King Ludwig or Ludwig. One of the local gamers brought this along and was more than happy to teach the table. I think there was 4 people playing.
Hmm.
So it really is a simple gateway game, this one, and I quite enjoyed it because what you're doing in the game is you want to build a castle, and everyone is building their own castle, and essentially the most points wins. But you get different points for putting different parts of your castle together. So you might put a ballroom next to a garden, and that will give you certain points, or you might have a music room next to a buffet room and things like that. So you constantly have lots of little tiny pieces, and you're making a little. It's kind of like a blueprint or a map of a castle in a way.
But the pieces aren't like Tetris pieces, are they? They're actually like, as far as I saw, I didn't play this one with you. I was playing on a different table, but as
Yeah.
far as I could see, that the pieces themselves didn't look like they didn't fit, or they fit together. Like the doors meet up, but the actual pieces themselves kind of aren't like Tetris pieces. Is that right?
Yeah, they're not quite Tetris pieces. They're all different shapes and sizes. So there's massive circles, there's rectangles, squares of all different sizes, and they have pictures of open doors, and you want your doors to connect to the other pieces, and that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of how you assemble your castle. But the interesting thing about this game is each round. So there's 8 rounds, and each round there's a certain finite amount of number of rooms that come out,
Yep.
and if it's your turn as the player, you actually get to set the cost of each of these pieces. So if you say, "Oh, Neve really
Right.
wants this big square piece because that's perfect for him," I might set that at a really high price. So that way, when
Right.
Anthony
Okay.
pays to buy it, that the money he uses to spend and what all the other players use to spend actually goes to you as you set the prices. So that's your way of keeping your
Right, right.
income.
Right. Okay. So one player is
Yeah.
the active player, and you can be nice, or you can set a bit of a grudge, and you can try and have some fun times or whatever with.
Yeah, so there's a bit of fun
Right.
in
Right. Right.
setting the prices as to what people will pay for the perfect piece of the
Hmm.
mansion. But essentially, you also want to have the opportunity to buy a piece as well. So you kind of don't want to set the piece that you want ridiculously high because you still
Right.
have to pay the bank in that way.
Right.
Um,
Right. But if you set it too low, someone may sweep in and take it before you, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly right. So
Right. Okay.
there's really two parts to the game here, which is setting the price of the piece of all the pieces,
Hmm.
hoping the one that is left over is the one that you wish to purchase.
Yep.
Because money is points at the end of the game as well. It's not a lot of points. You get more points for building in your castle.
Yep.
Um, and the other part of the game is actually building in the castle where certain rooms can't touch certain other rooms because they're
Right.
worth
Okay.
negative points. So there's a bit of thinking to do there. But overall, not a lot. It's a really I wouldn't say it's a basic game, but it's quite an easy gateway game and relaxing as well because all you're doing is grabbing little tiles and piecing them together in front of you.
Yeah, but Board Game Geek rates it as a 2.66 weight, so right smack bang in that mid range game. So for those of you listening, if you don't understand what that means, basically the board game database, Board Game Geek, where everyone submits their weight ratings of games and whatnot, but they have a weight, and essentially one is the lowest, all the way up to five being the highest. So if you have a board game that's rated at 2.5, it's kind of like what people would say is not the easiest game in the world, but also not the hardest. It's right in that sweet spot of being a kind of a midweight, fun time to be had. But how long did it take you to play though? Was it
If
how'd you find your whole experience with the game?
Overall pretty good. So overall, it took us with 4 players. It took us just over an hour, I believe, to finish
Okay,
it. But it's one of those games where it didn't outstay its welcome. And I
that's good.
personally, I wasn't very good at it. I finished last. I'm not very good at board games typically, so I had kind of this weird little blueprint of this smallest little castle. And then as I looked around the room to see what other players were building, they basically sprawled across half the table. So,
Right.
so yeah, it's quite interesting because you all have the same choices, but you end up with something completely different based off the pieces you buy and put together.
That's
So
really
that,
really interesting
yeah,
to hear you say. Yeah. So yeah, that's really interesting to hear you say the fact that you played it in under an hour. So would you play it again? You reckon you'd show it to other people?
I would play it again. Personally, it wasn't, to be completely honest with you, Nate, it wasn't really my type of game. But I could definitely see the appeal for a nice, relaxing evening with a parent or with a young kid, and just picking the pieces and just piecing together the puzzle. Really,
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So that was Castles of Mad King Ludwig. It's from
yeah,
2014 game, so nearly 10 years old now. So that's pretty dang good. And designed by Ted Alspach. Sorry, I've totally butchered his name. And the
that's all
artist
right.
with Keith Curtis was out with the main artist there. Published
Yeah,
by
so
Basic Games.
it definitely stood the test of time as well, being published 10 years ago, and I think this is the second edition of it as well. So
Yeah.
it definitely has a fan base out there. So
Any
feel
game that
free to
gets a
check it out
second
if it sounds
any
like your thing.
any game that gets a second edition is pretty much
Hmm.
it must have something going for it if it's got enough people that want to.
Yeah. So Anth, you said you played something else on a different table. What did you play that evening?
We did. So whilst you were starting and getting your mad castles all together, we were on the other table pretending to be 1920s gangsters. We were playing the game Wise Guys, which is designed by Phil Yates, and artist was Darko Stonjanovic, and produced by Gale Force 9. So this is a really new game, actually. It's a Kickstarter that came out at the end of last year, and the deliveries have only happened this year. So it's been released in 2022. It's a really, really new game.
Oh, hot off
And
the press.
it is really hot off the presses. And I will say, this was a game that I didn't back, but I was so intrigued by the theme that when Rob, who is another member of the gamer group, he said he's got this game, I'm like, I need to play this game because I really wanted to play it. I didn't back it because I put myself on a Kickstarter freeze
Oh,
And
those Kickstarters can add up, man.
I know
So
they
quick.
can. I know they can. So that's why I put myself in a freeze at that point. But so for those of you, so the game is quite a very interesting kind of take on a worker movement area control game where we each take control of a family of gangsters. Those gangsters can have like associates or named men, your big guys. And it literally lended itself to being like us talking like, she, we're all 1920 gangsters, she, you get out of here, yeah, it's like I'll paint you full of lead, that whole kind of like, and literally for about, whilst we were doing it, we were basically talking like that and playing up the funny part of it. So that was actually a lot of fun to do that. The way that the game works quite simply is over the course, you get a certain amount of rounds based on how many people that you have. And then you are trying to then go to these locations. You're sending your mob to the locations and to activate the specific locations abilities. That may be
So
something from like getting alcohol, getting guns. It could even be something like getting more men. But the catch is you have to be the only one at the location to be able to what they call exploit the location.
okay.
So to be able to actually use it, you have to be the only one there. So it's a mixture of, well, I'm going to send associates and my men around the board trying to put myself in areas that I want to use in order to activate these locations to benefit me. Each of the families has a strong suit. So, for example, Reese was playing a family that was really good at attacking, so they wanted to get guns. Another my guys were really good at actually getting alcohol because I could steal alcohol from people. That was my whole thing. And then the winner of the game is the person who gets the most amount of money. You get the money by selling alcohol to the black market. There are other ways as well in other locations they do like translate guns into money. And then there's some actions and things that come out as well.
So from what I understand of it is you're versing each other, but is there any point that you actually team up with another player for a bit?
Not really. It's all one
Okay.
versus one. So you don't actually team up with anyone. You can make deals with people. You can say, hey, go fight him and I'll give you something. Or you can say, hey, I think, you should not go into this area or move out of this area and I'll let me in there and I'll give you something. So Reese and I actually had a deal where I said to him, I go, hey, Reese, how much can I give you to get out of that dang spot? Because I didn't want to fight him because I know he's really good at fighting. And he said, 2 alcohol. And I said, I'll give you one now and one when you move out. So he goes,
Nice.
okay. So I gave him one under the proviso that he would get the second if he dang moved out of the place. And he did. He was mad, so that I gave him his alcohol. Now, the game doesn't say you can't explicitly trade things, but it didn't say you can't. So we
Yeah.
just said, well, why not? I can't see why you wouldn't. Like, the gangs would be making deals. And then it's played over 6 rounds, so you get it anywhere from like 4 to 7, even up to 9 actions per round. So there's a lot going on, and because of that, you really did feel like a gangster. I really did feel like moving my men into areas to try and stop opponents from using things. And, there's a space called the hall where you can become the boss of bosses, right? So you're the criminal underlord boss, and
Oh, that's
if
cool.
you get the boss of bosses, you're basically you get first action, but you also dictate whatever happens in draws. So if me and this other person we draw, then the boss of bosses gets to say, sorry, you win. Or maybe you give me a bribe in case you win. So there's a whole bunch of some funny things here. There's like cards that like got to do with prohibition and guns and a whole bunch of things. So it was a lot of fun. It was fun, but I also towards the end of it, I really did start to feel like we were missing something, and I think a lot of the fun came from us pretending to be gangsters, and the theme kept us enwrapped. But the actual gameplay itself, I didn't really hook me. Reese, who ended up coming second, I thought he was going to come third. He ended up beating me. But he at one point had only like 4 or 5 actions at max per turn, whereas another player was having 9 actions. And there didn't seem to be a way that he could get more actions without like properly like spending a turn or 2 turns nearly to build his thing up. And by that point,
Is
we
that
were so far behind.
Is there any asynchronicity here where like one player has different abilities to another player, sort of
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, there is. So
Okay.
each gang has one specific like passive and one specific active ability that you can do. And so like for example, Reese's one was get $1. Mine was steal an alcohol from a person. Another person's was like get a gun or something like that, right? But
Yeah.
I did have some issues with it. I didn't I'm at the end of it going, well, first of all, the box says it should be played in 90 minutes. Our play took us 2.5 hours. So it felt like by the end of the game, I it did feel by the end of the game, I'm like, I really wanted this to be done at least an hour ago.
Yeah.
So I don't blame the players. I don't think there was a little bit of AP going on around the place, but not too much to the point where I go, the
Uh,
players were slowing us down. I don't think it was that at
so
all.
AP is analysis paralysis. That is literally when someone's just overthinking their turn and they're taking a while, and the rest of the table's just kind of waiting around for them to
Yeah,
finish
and
their
look,
turn. Really,
yeah, absolutely, you're right. And look, we had people like thinking, and I even thought, right, but there wasn't. I didn't think the AP was bad enough that it should have slowed like it wasn't a player fault. It felt like the game just was going for too long. But then it also kind of became clear that we knew who was going to win, but it felt like there was no way that anyone else could get into the game. It felt like we knew who the winner was in round 4, but we
yeah.
still had 2 full rounds to play before we actually figured out who was actually going to win.
I tell you what, I was on a different table looking and watching you guys play, and it looked like a lot of fun. There was many times where I saw everyone grab little things in their hands and reveal them at the same time, and a bit of a voting mechanic there or something. And
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
the terrible accents you guys were
yeah.
doing.
Well, look, and
uh,
here's the thing. I would like to try this again. I don't want to give up on it after only one play. I want to try it again with maybe a different group, maybe even like different play. Like now that I understand it, just different people. I feel like with the right group, this could have a spot. I don't know if it would fit into my collection at the moment. It
I
certainly
tell you what,
did.
it looks good.
Just so people are understanding, the Wise Guys though is a re-implementation slash a reskinning of the game, like the Sons of Anarchy game. Men of Mayhem was what it was. So it's basically a reskinning of that game. So if you've played Sons of Anarchy, then you will know how to play this game. It's basically the same thing. I think the Sons of Anarchy game, I think had to do with they were dealing with drugs and other stuff that had to do with the TV show. So the publisher decided to reskin it to try and appeal it to a larger
Oh,
audience. I believe
much
that's
more family friendly, just with drugs and
yeah,
alcohol
pretty
instead
much.
of drug. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So like they tried to cartoony it up a bit more than have it so that it was like the Sons of Anarchy theme, right? So still not not a kid friendly theme, but also not complete adult bikey gang sort of thing going on.
Yeah.
Look,
So it's set in the 1920s Chicago. So
yeah, yeah, and apparently all the people who are named are actually real people who were in the world in that time as well. So it's like it has them there.
that's cool.
It wasn't a hard game by any stretch. Kind of understood it really quickly. We got it played through, but I have to admit, like it wasn't. It was disheartening after the first play, but I am not willing to give up on it yet. I would be down for a second play to see whether or not I missed something, or if there was a way that the interactions, because there is a modular board, so the locations do get to be changed. There are 9 locations that come out throughout the game, and 9 or 6 or something like that.
Yeah,
So
I
they
think it's 9.
yeah, so they change. They change from play to play. So maybe there's some bad locations, maybe there's some better ones. I don't know,
Well,
but
that's it. Like this is all just first impressions, really. Same as my sort of, I wouldn't call it a review of the Castles of King Ludwig. It
yeah.
was purely first impressions. So, uh, you know, we definitely would love to play these games more.
Oh look, I love the art. I think from a
Yeah.
presentation standpoint, it worked really well. I'm not a fan of they have like the hidden boards, but the boards have got your round structure on it, but they angle it in a way for the hidden to give you a hidden, so you can hide stuff. It angles it away from your eye line up towards your eye. So to get it, you have to kind of like look down and do all this weird stuff. So there's a couple of little things here and there where I'm like, it could be timed up, but the actual art itself and the actual presentation of the game, I actually really enjoyed. I understood what was going on. Reese didn't. I believe he's colorblind.
I am as well.
Oh, you are
Yeah.
as well.
Mm.
And I'm not sure if that's true. I'm not sure. Sorry, Reese, if I'm doing that, but I do believe I thought I heard him say the red and the green look very similar. So if you have red green blindness, I'm fairly certain it's from an accessibility standpoint that can probably be an issue.
Yeah.
So that's just something to be aware of.
I've definitely been hindered by some games as well as video games. They've gotten better nowadays, but board games, I find there's some games that are still pretty far behind, and they should really do some further play testing with some colorblind people. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
and I think that's also a discussion topic for us on certainly a later
Definitely,
podcast as well.
definitely
Um,
accessibility in board games. But we finished up the night quite well.
yes, we did. We
Yeah,
So you played whilst we were finishing up Wise Guys. You were playing Hunter Teutonica. We're not going to talk about that game, however, but
it was a good game
we will just say though that you said to me when you played it, it looks so much better in person than on Tabletop Simulator. And I'm like, thank you. That's what I've been trying to say. But we'll move on from that. But then we ended the game with Long Shot the Dice Game. Now, Long Shot the Dice Game is a roll and write version of Long Shot, which is another board game. And this only came to my door this year from Kickstarter. It made its way to my house in early March, I believe, March, April, around my birthday. And it is essentially a zany horse race, an 8-horse race, 1 lap, where we are all doing a roll and write. So there's a few actions that you can do, which happen to be like taking the jersey of a horse, which allows you to boost it on other horses. There's the helmet. There's the concession stand where you go to get power ups. You can bet on the horses, and then you can even buy the horses. So there's a whole bunch of things going on here. But Ralph, we've both played this game before. We got to hear, but this was the first time we played it at 8 players. We had everyone who was still there, and we played 8 players.
I'll tell you what, aside from teaching people the game, which is over within 5 to 10 minutes.
I think it took us 10 minute teach for 8 players, I think, yeah.
And that was fantastic. The game really captures what it feels like to be at the horse races, where everyone has their own little book sheet and everyone's betting on a horse. You watch the race. The race is extremely exciting. So the way the race works is you roll 2 dice, and 1 dice is a D8, so it has 8 sides on it, and it has horses number 1 through to horse number 8. And when horse, say, number 6 is rolled, the other dice tells you how many spaces it moves on the racetrack. And that's how you basically move the horse. And then that gives you further options to do things on your little booking sheet. Like Anthony said, just putting a little helmet, putting a little jersey. Like if you take the jersey option, you can pick a horse and make it move a little bit faster in the future.
So that's the game mechanic that we really should. That's the crutch of this game, which is that every horse, not only when you move, let's say for example, we move horse number 1, that you can also move. You have to cross. The horse number 1 has a whole bunch of crosses on the bottom numbered from 1 to 8, and it starts off only with a couple. But you can start adding more crosses, and those crosses represent every other horse that will move 1 space when this horse moves, including itself. So you could have number 1's going to move forward 2 spots, but also 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all moving 1 spot as well. And that's where the fun starts to come into it, because you're like, oh my God, these other horses keep moving no matter what I roll.
It kind of has the feeling, I don't know if you've been to a baseball game before, but you actually, you don't just watch the stats. They actually give you a little book, and you kind of keep the stats of the players as you're watching the game. It kind of feels like that, where something happens and then you're recording it on your own little book slip. So yeah, it just makes the sport exciting.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well that makes this race really exciting is that we kind of mentioned that the concession stand is you're playing a mini game of bingo. You have a 4x4 grid, you're trying to cross off numbers, and if you can get a horizontal or a vertical row finished, you get to get a power up. And those power ups can be something like you get a free $3 bet, you can take a free jersey cross, a free helmet cross, or get some money, so you can have some more money to bet with. Or you can, and this is where the game gets really funny, is you can move the horses forward. You can move a horse forward 3 spots. You could move 2 horses forward 2 spots. Or you can move horses backwards, right? You can say, that horse is too far in front. I don't have a bet on it. He's moving back 3 spaces.
So I'll give you guys an example. I'll give you guys an example of what happened in our last game. It was really exciting for me because I basically bet all my money on number 7, this one particular horse. and Anthony kept moving it back, and the entire time I was just cursing him. I was so close. I would have won the game if that horse finished like third, I think, because there's
Yeah,
the
it
cutoff.
was that what it was.
Um,
Yeah, it was when the third horse. And what I did was though, because my horse was in fourth position, and I had timed it in a way so that I finished my combo that I actually got a double action. So not only was I able to move my horse like his horse back 2 spots, mine went forward 2 spots and put myself. You can't cross the finish line with these power ups. You can put yourself on the finish line, but you have to get that roll. And then the next roll, we pushed over and we got it. And so that, but like throughout the whole, it wasn't the first time that had happened, was it, Ralph? I remember,
yeah, no, it
was
wasn't.
like 3 times throughout that whole race. Like you were moving it forward, and I'm like, no, go back. He doesn't want to go forward.
I tell you what, that
There you
race
go.
lasted like 5 minutes. Like the game prop doesn't take too long, and I was on
No.
tilt the entire time. Just so
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then the final thing that we should mention as well is that the horses, not only can you bet on the horses, but you can actually buy a horse. And that each horse has a unique ability that is then only available to you throughout the rest of the game. So, that could be something like, hey, every time that you finish a vertical row on the concession stand, you get an extra bet. Or, hey, at the end of the game, for every bet on a horse you have, you'll get 2 extra bonus dollars. Hooray, like extra money, all these kind of variants and stuff. And so the game actually the Kickstarter version that I got also comes with 3 different sets of horses, 2 mini expansions, and then some different track conditions. So in our second game, we played the first game just at the very base game, and we finished the game with a teach in less than half an hour, which was really good. And then we just went, do we want to do one more? And everyone went, yeah. So we did one more, and we knocked out that next race in less than 15 minutes because so one horse nearly finished a lap before 2 horses even got off the start line.
That was insane.
But the game, if you're looking for a fun, it is light. However, you just have to get your head around the rules. The rules can be a little bit, I will say that once you understand the rules, it's great, but trying to get your head around what those rules actually are at the start can be a bit, confusing to some people. I can do this, or what can I do? What horses can I do? Can I only do this action? That seemed to be the biggest thing.
I would like to say, like, you also have to be okay with horse racing and gambling. Like, that has ruined a lot of people's lives, and you really have to be comfortable with that sort of theme. But it's a fantastic game, and highly recommend that one. It is sold out everywhere. That's another thing that's tilting me. I can't get a copy of this game, but
this is one of the reasons why I backed it, because I was like, it comes in like essentially the size of an old VHS tape. If you know how big that is, if you're too young to know what that is, I feel old, but essentially it's like a standard kind of book, right? It's very, very small, very, very compact to fit into a thing. It's reusable. You are right, Ralph. It does have that gambling aspect, and the way that you do win this game is actually primarily by having your bets come off. That's primarily the way that you are going to win this game. So you have to be okay with the idea of like, I'm going to chuck bets on these horses and whatnot. Yes, you're not gambling for real money, but that is a topic that people should be aware of just going into it. In case there are people who you are being sensitive and things like that. But look, I've played this game now over nearly 10 times, I think. Well, my log says I've played it 6 times. But I have taught it to groups at 4. I taught it to groups at 3, and I also now have this 8 group. And I have to admit, even at 8, it still plays the same because you're always involved. Whoever is the active player, doesn't matter. When someone rolls, everyone does something. So it doesn't matter if you're...
You know what's odd, and you can't say this about every game, but I found the more people you have, the faster the game is.
Yeah, I found that too, yeah.
Because more people are taking the jersey action, which will allow a horse to move a bit faster during the game.
Yeah.
So it just makes the game faster the more people you have.
I mean, you tell me if you felt this. For me as well, I felt like when we were playing it with more players, it felt like it became less about strategy and more about, whatever, I'm just going to put a thing down there, right? Because when you play with Lee, you're just like, well, what's the best move? Maybe I should be bidding on that. But when you have 8 players, everyone's like, 7. It's like, get on the 7 train, boys. We're going all the way. And then it's like, everyone's like, yeah, let's get on 7. And it's like everyone trying to get a horse to the finish line, even though they don't own
it. It definitely felt like we were at the races and everyone was a bookie or trying to find a
It
bookie.
did.
It
Yeah.
was, it was fantastic.
It is one of my favorite roll and writes. It is a hybrid roll and write, obviously, because we have the board in the center, so there are things like which is not roll and write, but it is certainly up there with my favorite roll and write. So that was Long Shot the Dice Game by Chris Handy. The artist was Klaus Souza and published by Perplexed. So yeah, if you can get it, I highly recommend it. I mean, as you said though, we can't get it at the moment, but
No,
yeah, I'll take that one there.
definitely. But I suppose just to sort of wind up this episode, and might be a little bit of a longer segment, but I just want to talk about what I get up to on my birthday every year, and I don't mean special times. I guess they are still special times with friends.
That's a different podcast. That's a different podcast we do.
That's we talked about gambling. This is definitely 18 plus. But
that's good.
No, so I like to get a whole bunch of friends and family around, and I kind of use my birthday as a guilt trip to getting them to play a game with me. I'm sad,
yep.
I know.
No, that's how GooberCon started. GooberCon was like, this is my birthday event. This is my thing. I don't want you to throw me a party. I want you to come and play games with me. That's it.
Everyone's like, what cake do you want? I don't care. I want to play a game.
Yep. Feel that.
So one year we played a game called Don't Get Got. Which is a kind of a game you play for like 7 players, I believe, or so. But we played it with 20.
And that's a lot of players. Wow, that's a lot of players.
It was fantastic. We played a different variant of it where everyone, well, I had all the little tasks in a bucket. And basically, people went and picked 2, and you'll only get another one after you complete one of them.
Right. Okay.
So essentially, what this game is, I'll just talk about it fairly short. But you'll get a task, and that task might say, "Get someone to go check their teeth."
Right.
And what my wife did when she got that, she spoke to me at the party, and I was just talking to her, and then she goes, "Ralph, you have something in your teeth. Why don't you go to the bathroom and get it out?" And I went to the bathroom, checked my teeth, and then she followed me with a massive grin on her face. So she got a point for that. But if I at any point said, this is part of the game, or is this part of the game, she can't target me, and she'll have to target someone else at the party. And I'll tell you what, the prize was I think it was like a $30 movie voucher or something. And everyone in the party was playing this game. So my cousin was really committed to it. He fell down in the mud because it was a rainy night, and I picked him up. He ruined his jeans, and his task was get someone to help you up. And I'm like, I was like, you're a dick. And one of my mates, he was moving to France in a few years, and my cousin just went, "Oh, you're moving to France? Do you know any French?" And he starts talking French, and my cousin's like, "Oh, I got you. I had to get someone to speak French to me." So it created this crazy atmosphere. Everyone was tense, and it was a lot of fun. So we had a cutoff. We played that till 11 p.m. and whoever did the most tasks got the $30 movie voucher. So that was a lot of fun. But this year, I've always wanted to play a social deduction game. So we used to play a lot of Mafia or Werewolf, just via Fire Pit. I love a good Fire Pit. The problem with Mafia is when you die, you sit out of the game. You're not even allowed to talk anymore.
Yeah.
And I heard of this game called Blood on the Clock Tower, which is very similar, except everyone in the game has a special ability. And when you die in the game, you're not out. You can still talk. You can still be social. You're kind of like Casper the Friendly Ghost or Nearly Headless Nick or something. You know, you're still there. And what's really interesting is your voice still matters because you still get a vote. So essentially the way these type of games work is everyone's a good person, being a townsfolk. And then there's one demon, which is the bad guy that kills everyone.
Yep.
And it's the demon's job to kind of blend in with the good players, work out who a powerful good player is and kill them at night. There's parts of the game where everyone closes their eyes and the demon will point and kill a player. And the way the demon wins is by being one of the last 2 surviving players.
Yep.
And the way the good team win is they have to kill the demon. Right? So everyone you sort of wake up the first day. You know, we had 12 players at my party this time around, and most people were a good player, and you kind of all break off. You have your little chats, and you suspect people because they're being dodgy, and
Yeah.
everyone's got a special ability, but you might be a player called the monk, which will save other players from dying. So you
Right,
might not
right, right.
necessarily want to tell everyone you're the monk because, if you tell the demon, they might kill you, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think for a lot of people, this may be sounding a lot familiar to a very popular game that became massive during COVID. It's not a board game; it's actually a game called Among Us.
Oh,
And
yes.
Among Us is basically based off this whole system of mafia and werewolf. And I have to admit, werewolf, I refuse to play it anymore because not be, because I don't like the system. I specifically don't like the fact that someone does not get to play the game at all. Because what happens
Yeah.
in werewolf is everyone gets their cards. You all shut your eyes, and then the werewolf kills someone, and then that player doesn't get to play the game. They didn't even get a chance to defend themselves. Didn't do anything. They're just gone, and they're out for the
Yep.
rest of the game. And depending on how many players, a game of werewolf can take 40 to 45 minutes to play to an hour.
And what's not great about werewolf is you just choose to kill someone on a whim. You have no
Mm.
information to go off.
Especially that first night. Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
bad. Yeah, yeah.
it's just a hunch. But with Blood on the Clock Tower, everyone has a role. And you might be someone called the empath, which their ability is each night you get told, and that tells you how many of your neighbors are good.
Right, okay.
So you can trust the people next to you, or you can't trust them,
Right.
sort of thing. And there's lots of different roles that get information. But what's interesting, the demon, the bad guy, he or she, they're not on their own. They have minions. So there's
Yeah.
typically two minions in a game, and one of them's called the poisoner. And each night they pick a good person, and that means that person is poisoned and they get false information.
Mm.
So you might have a good empath that's getting told that none of his neighbors are evil, but he's sitting next to the demon.
Right. Right,
So
right,
yeah,
okay.
so the game opens up, and there are 20 roles in the beginner game, but everyone gets a big sheet. It's an A4 piece of paper that tells you all the roles, and it's up to you as a player to know who to trust and just to use that information. And the game always builds very nicely to a big crescendo. I think the game lasts like 5 days or so, it just depends. But it builds up nicely where all the good players kind of band together and they work out who they can trust, or evil just wins. I won't get
Just
into
win.
it's always a close game, honestly.
Mm.
If the storyteller or like the person running the game does their job, it always builds to a beautiful climax.
I think you're mentioning the biggest thing, at least for me, the biggest thing that makes me want to play Blood on the Clock Tower compared to Mafia, which you haven't touched on until just then, which is that this game though does have basically a game master. It has a person whose job is they know who's everyone's role is. They
Yeah.
know who everyone is, they know what is happening, and not only that, the rulebook specifically states that the game master can change things on a whim if it makes a better story or a better game. They're
Yeah,
encouraged to do that. And that's the moment where I'm like, I would rather play this where I know that the game master is going to do things to make the game like not to break the logic puzzle, but to help this be an enjoyable experience for the people who are currently playing it. Because that's the reason why I will only play One Night Werewolf, because everyone's involved for the whole time and everyone does half truths and whatnot. That's why I love it. But when unfortunately, I couldn't come to your party when you invited us. I was very disappointed because I really wanted to play this game because of that. And you're right, this game has had a lot of hype for the past 2 years since Shut Up and Sit Down did their Kickstarter review, and then the game got delayed for 2 years due to COVID. And it is if I'm not mistaken, it's an Australian developer, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So it's Australian designed. I believe the guys live around like King's Cross area
Yep.
or Darlinghurst area. But they've got designers all around the world. They've got official storytellers all around the world. There's a great YouTube channel called No Rolls Barred, and they kind of do amazing videos of them playing this game over
Mm.
Zoom.
Yep.
And it's so entertaining. If you have a couple of hours to kill, I highly recommend you check out one of their Blood on the Clock Tower playthroughs.
Hmm.
But with the whole storyteller keeping things balanced, it's all within reason, and it doesn't necessarily break the logic of the game either.
No.
So at the end of the game, the storyteller basically goes through what happened during the game, and you kind of see their logic there, and you're like, yeah, I completely understand why the storyteller gave me false information, because I would have worked out the whole thing, sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's why I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to playing it as well. That's what I really want from this sort of social deduction game. Like, I would rather have either a game, like, for example, Search for Planet X, which uses an app to guide you through this logic puzzle, or have a human emotion or someone who's like, no, there's a story here, and we can tell something fun, but to do that, I'm going to have to do this in the story, and then I can tell you what I did at the end. I think I love the fact that that's actually something that they do. So, we always like to give respect to the people who design these games, though. So I will say that the designer is his name is Stephen Medway. The art was done by Michaela Dawn and John Van Fleet, and the publisher was the Pandemonium Institute. That's, I think, one of the coolest publisher names.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
really
you'll find.
cool.
But yeah, like
So
that. But yeah, so it's pretty
there
damn good.
there are quite a few events in Sydney where we're located that actually run this game. If you're interested to try it,
Mhm.
there are gaming events at Penrith, at Castle Hill, the Shakespeare Hotel in the city, and on September 1st is actually a big gaming event happening, not just for Blood on the Clock Tower, but it's just for board games in general, and a lot of new designers are testing their games out.
What's
So
this one?
that's at the Museum of Applied Arts and Science. So
I'll have to have a look.
it's on September 1st.
Ooh,
And they're running lots of games of Blood on the Clock Tower there. They've got the designer of Blood on the Clock Tower there as well.
fantastic!
So definitely worth
Fantastic.
checking out. And just lastly, we're also myself and a friend of mine, Damien, from MacArthur Board Gamers, we're running games at Ingleburn RSL. I think the night after, September 2nd. So definitely get yourself down to one of those events.
Yeah, and look, our final topic tonight before we wrap up this podcast, I think we wanted to both talk about. We kind of talked about, the fact that we've been to events and that we were at an event and that there's an event coming up. But we kind of wanted to talk about just a bit of a subject that we think we both can shed some light on. But what is the actual etiquette for board game meetups? Now, we kind of talked about, at the start of the episode, what do you expect from people when we do a board game night? But this is different, wouldn't you say, Ralph? Like, when we go to a public meetup space, when we're doing it, what are some of the things that we should, some of the rules, not rules, I should say, but these are some things, and these should be like no-brainers that we think that gamers and board gamers specifically that we're talking about. Let's have a chat about what we think. People should. What's the etiquette? What should you do? For these games. So
Definitely, I think one of the big things that you should do is just have a bit of an open mind when you turn up to these events. A lot of people might bring some games with them to these things, and you just have to be sort of willing and sort of keen for their teach and for something new.
Yeah, I think that's one. I think that's a really good idea. This one I want to get out of the way because I don't want to hammer on too much. But I think we need to also say, as a rule for meetups, if you're ever going to a meetup, especially in a board gaming thing, you need to be, you have to be conscious of your general hygiene going into these things. And
Someone had to say it.
Someone has to say it, right? Like the stereotype of the smelly gamer is a stereotype for the reason, because there are people who don't look after that part of their body. Now, in saying that, we do know that there are people who have genuine medical issues, so we're not trying to shame anyone here, but realistically, we should all be we should be respectful of the fact that I'm about to share the same space as you for the next 3 hours, and I may not know you. And my respect to you is that I would like to think that I'm washed clean and using an antiperspirant sort of, deodorant sort of thing, not a Lynx, not a smell nice. I mean, a proper antiperspirant, right? Now I don't want to hammer this to home, but realistically, guys, and this is something that we expect from people when I come to my house. Like, hey, this is just a rule of life. It shouldn't have to be just a, Hey, board
Anthony,
game rule.
again, I apologize for the other week.
Ralph, I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times, mate. It's it's Links Africa is not a good enough. Is not a substitute. Okay, right? Yeah, we're not 18 anymore. My mum's not buying my Christmas presents, even though she bought me Links Africa
Actually,
last year. Let's.
I got gifted a Links Africa set a couple of years ago, actually, and I was like, I didn't know they still made these.
Yeah, they still do. I got one from my mum last year. I have to admit, she's like still loves to get us the good old, the body wash and the spray combo for Christmas. It's still a great. But look, we won't hammer on that one anyway. But like that's something that people should be able to expect though. Like we want this to be warm and welcoming and open. And as part of that, people don't want to be next to people who aren't, looking up, who aren't hygienic. Right? I mean, that's just a rule of society. Speaking of warm and welcoming and opening, though, I will say that, if anyone rocks up to a board gaming event, you shouldn't be gatekeeping this hobby from people, right? You shouldn't be, you shouldn't be stopping people from feeling like they can be participating.
Yeah, definitely. You shouldn't punch down on people and things like that. But if someone's there and they want to play a game, take the time to teach them and just be patient. We all learn differently, and some people might not be as quick as you are to pick up certain things, but just sort of be patient. And I'm sure everyone can get there and have a bit of fun as well.
Yeah, and look, I want it to be known as well that I'm not referring to people going, hey, look, you can say to people and be respectful, hey, look, sorry, I'm just playing a game with my friends at the moment. We just want to play this game with ourselves. We're doing stuff. That's fine. Everyone's entitled to have their own gaming groups, but you should never go, sorry, I don't think this game is for you, right? Let's say, you should never like, oh, you may not understand this. What was the last game that you played? Oh, Monopoly. Well, you're not gonna enjoy this. Like,
Yeah.
I've actually found like. A quick side note, we played a game of diplomacy last night, right? So we've talked about before, we played another game. It was fun. But my wife stepped in to fill in the 7th player role. She's never played a war strategy game ever, right? She has never done that kind of stuff. And yet she got in and I told the story and she backstabbed my cousin in the first move, right? She knows she picked it up, right? So the idea like, as a person, you can politely decline, right? You can say,
Yeah.
no, sorry, me and my friends, we just want to play a game. However, we'd like to play a game. Like, if you want to play a game, these guys are starting a game, or maybe you can come and join us after this. But I mean, look, I guess that's the other thing as well. I mean, politeness, right? We should be polite to each other.
Actually, I was just going to say, because you're saying your wife sort of surprised you with a really good play. At my birthday event of Blood on the Clock Tower, one of my friends, his wife is from Japan, and she came here and actually she listens to this. She surprised me. She said, "Oh, I listened to the first episode." I was like, "Oh, how sweet. Thank you." Anyway, she told me this during the game of Blood on the Clock Tower. And her role, which she confided in me in round 2, was she is the Virgin. Now, what that ability is if anyone nominates her, that player dies straight away. Right?
Right. Okay.
Anyways, I told one of my friends who used his ability already, and he nominated her, but my friend didn't die straight away. So that told us all that she is evil. And she surprised the hell out of me. She appealed to me as a person, saying, "Ralph, I listened to your podcast. It was amazing. You can trust me." And oh my god,
but that's the thing, like, these events, right? This, it comes back to that gatekeeping, right? You don't know, if you don't know a person and you don't know what they're capable of, you shouldn't be assuming. And in fact, the more that we not turn people away, the less people we have to play with. And the whole point of this hobby is to play games and share these things with people,
That's right. Just have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Have fun. That's the number rule. And I think the final thing that we want to say from a board game etiquette kind of standpoint is respect. I think, and this is not just respect of people, this is also being respectful of time, and it's also being respectful of the actual physical games themselves.
That's right. People spend a lot of money on these things, and they bring them to an RSL or a bar, or maybe even your house. So you got to look after it as if it was your own sort of thing. You won't be bending your own cards, sort of thing.
Yeah, and also, and yeah, that's right. You want to be careful of the board game, of the physical nature of it, but you also want to be, polite and respectful of the time. Now, that means that if
Yeah,
someone's going to teach you a game, you probably should be listening to them. You should be listening and giving them your attention because they're spending their time to teach you how to play this game. However,
exactly.
if you're not enjoying the game, you can also be respectful of your time by going, guys, I'm really not having a good time. I don't want to continue with the rest of this game. I
Well,
am
that's
sorry.
exactly what I did.
Yeah.
I went to a board game event, and there was probably 80 people there,
Mm.
and someone was teaching me quite nicely Hadrian's Wall, which is probably the biggest roll and write I have ever seen. So it's just a game where a roll and write, essentially you roll dice and you record what happens and you do things on a bit of a homework sheet. Hadrian's Wall is the biggest version of that I've seen, and this person was teaching a table of 5 players, including me, and it took him about 30 minutes to get through the teach. And I politely, at that point, after he was done teaching, I apologized, I thanked him, and I said, I'm so sorry, it's not clicking with me, I'm going to bow out. And that's me. I pretty much get into every single game, and I couldn't do this one.
Yeah.
Months later, I ended up buying the game and learned it myself, and it's fantastic. So,
No, but
yeah, feel free to bow out.
yeah, that's the
Yeah,
respectful thing to do, though, right? You say, look, you sat through the teach and you went, look, I don't think I'm going to enjoy my time. So rather than spoiling your time and my time, I'm just going to bow out right now. And I'm sure he would have respected that because
he
he was
did.
still playing with other players. And he's like, look, and I've done that before where I say to people, guys, if we are not having a good time, let me know. So many people think that we have to finish a game because we started it. And I'm like, dudes, if you're not having fun, I don't want to play this game. If you're like your enjoyment, and I've said this before, is your enjoyment is my priority. And if you're not having fun, then let's not continue on. Like I don't want you to sit through this. I don't want you to have to
Yeah,
not enjoy it.
and that's it. And honestly, the purpose of going to board game events is to meet some new people, to meet some like-minded people, and make a friend or two. I've met quite a few people, just absolutely lovely. And years later, we're still getting together, going out for a drink, and playing a roll and ride at a pub.
Yeah. Also, maybe you'll find a game that you think you would never like, and maybe you'll find something you're like, oh, this is actually a lot of fun. So there's so much to be had, and realistically, this hobby is now growing at an enormous pace because people realize, like, hey, we want to have that time together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. But Anth, I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. Sort of meetup etiquette, and we covered quite a lot of games. Is there anything you want to say to people at home as we wrap up?
Look, I would like to just say, look, I'd like to mention the fact that we just surpassed our first milestones, which are being we have got our
Oh, we
Facebook group,
did.
and it's okay. We didn't really think about it at the start because we wanted to have all 4 boys here, but I do want to mention as well that we've just surpassed 50 members on our Facebook page, as well as we've just surpassed 100 plays in total on the podcast, which is fantastic. A great opening week, but we want that to keep going. So we would like, if you enjoy the content. We'd like to invite you to our Facebook page. You can go to facebook.com/groups/board game gateway, and you can come and join us there. We'll be posting more opinion pieces, podcast, fun things as well, more posts. We wanted to get you involved. We'd love to also get you in our Discord. If you go to our website, www.boardgamegateway.com, you'll be able to find all the links to our Discord, Facebook, YouTube as well. We'd love to come and join you in Discord. Join us in Discord because
Come play games with us.
yeah, like we're recording this in our Discord at the moment, so this is how we're doing that at the moment. Other than that, we just want to invite you to be a part of this community because yes, it's our podcast, but this podcast is nothing without you guys. So other than that, Ralph, I just say to everyone, please, if you like what you're listening to, subscribe, follow. If you're on Apple Podcast, leave us a 5-star review. If you like it, that would be great, but leave us a review. We would love to hear from you, and
Definitely.
yeah, man.
And tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends. I mean, look, we're
Yeah.
on now more things now. So we're on Google, we're on Apple, we're on Stitcher, we're on
We're on
Amazon.
everything. We're
We're on Amazon Music. We just put on Amazon Music because someone requested us to get on there, so we did it. And yeah, we're also on Spotify.
Was that Jeff Bezos? Did he ask us? He's like, can you get on Amazon, please?
Yeah, I've got Jeff's number in my pocket right now. I'll give him a call up and see if I can get up to space or something like that. You know?
Perfect. Sounds great. Is it my turn? I'm a bit confused.
I think so. I think it's your turn. I think you can close this out. Yeah, I think you can do that.
Yeah. No worries. Well, I'll keep it short and sweet. So thanks everyone, and have a good week.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Oh, that was